California dreaming about you.
Hey guys, SimCoder here, and today we are going to learn how we can store an image in our storage, Firebase storage, better yet. So we'll save the image that we took to in the previous lesson to the storage, as I said, and this image will be only stored in the stories part of the app. So because we haven't done the find users and we haven't dealt with followers and following, I'm only going to do stories by now. And the reason why I'm doing this instead of finding users to follow is because in the previous lessons we've been dealing with the camera, and so I figured it made a lot more sense to take care of storing the image now, so that in the future we only have to copy and paste some code around to make the same work in order to send images directly to followers. So I figured it made more sense, and so I'm going to grab the Firebase dashboard here and go into storage, and this is what we are going to use. So yeah, and right now it is empty, it doesn't have anything, as you can see, but it works just as a folder in your Windows or Mac, wherever, in your computer. So it has folders that you can store a bunch of images there, and we are going to store the image with a unique ID that's associated with the post that the user has done. So it will be unique to each and every single post across the platform. Another thing that we are going to store is the timestamp and the timestamp end. And the timestamp is the date at which the image was stored to the database, or to the storage in this case. And the timestamp end is in how much time will the image expire. In this case, and in the case of Snapchat, it is a full day for now, so 24 hours. So you'll see how we'll do that all in a quick second, so let's get right into it. And I'm going to open up our Snapchat project and go inside activity show capture, and for now I'm going just to add a button to add to the stories, and in the next lessons that are to come we will create a new activity so that the user can choose whether he wants the stories or specific users or both, so that it becomes a lot more clean. But for now a button here will suffice and it will be good enough. So button, let's create that, match parents and wrap contents, and this is in a linear layout, so I'm going to change that into a frame layout so that we can overlay items. Text will be save to stories, and the layout gravity will be bottom. Okay, let's just set the ID as well. It can be stories, better yet story. Okay, so now I can go into show capture activity. Let's make it bigger. Okay, and now we'll just add the button. So let's do it after all of this and say button m story equals to find view by ID r.id.story. Okay, import that class, and now as always do a set on click listener. Set on click listener, new on click listener. Okay, and now we are going to actually start working on the story. So I'm going to make a function called save to stories, so that we can make the code smaller and easier to understand. Let's create that function, give it some space. Okay, and so now we can actually start working on saving the information, both the image and, let me just rephrase that. In Firebase, it works somewhat different because the storage, not different because that's how everything works, but the storage is disconnected from the database. And so you gotta find some way to bring it all together, and that way is by using a unique ID, okay? Or better yet, in this case, we could also use a unique ID for the post, so we'll create a shell inside the user's database. And let me grab the Firebase right here. Going to the database. Let it load. Okay, so imagine you are this user. You are going to create a new child, which will be called story, or stories, doesn't matter. And inside here, it will have unique IDs. Unique ID 1, the value, let's say true. And inside the unique ID 1, it will have the timestamp end, and most importantly, the image URL. So we are going to get the image URL that you store inside the storage, and you are going to place it here. And this unique ID works just as the user's child does. So it will be pretty straightforward. So let's delete that and get on with the code. So the first thing that we need is the database reference for the user story. So user story db equals to Firebase database dot get instance dot get reference dot child users dot child UID, and we haven't created the user UID, so we are going to create it now. So let's go inside up here and say string UID, string with a capital S, and the way we get the user's UID is, as you probably should know, by saying get better yet, Firebase off dot get instance dot get UID, and that's it. So child UID and child story, which is where every story will be uploaded to. Okay, so now we are going to create a push, and this push will give us a unique ID. That unique ID that I was talking about right here will create it by using a function called push. And that's different from the users, because with users, the system basically does that for us. But we have to do it ourselves for specific things. So let's say string key equals to user story db dot push dot get key. So this won't create the key, but it will give us a key that's available, and in that we can use freely. So now let's create a file path, which is works as a database reference. In this case, the file path variable is a storage reference. Variable type is a storage reference. So let's go storage reference, and we must import something. Oh, and that's right, because we haven't imported the library that we need. So we must go into our Gradle, because in order to save things to the storage, we must use a specific library, which is called storage. So make sure you add that to the end of your Gradle file and sync it. Should take no time. And that's the reason why it wasn't working. And in the meantime, as I said, it works just as the database reference. You can choose the shells, and it is basically a folder within folders. So yeah, it is quite simple to understand, and you'll understand it better as we make the app actually work, so that you can watch it in real time. So let's say file path, which will be the image path within the storage unit. Say Firebase storage dot get instance dot get reference dot child captures. Let's create that. So every picture that is taken by the user will be stored under a folder called captures, and that specific picture will have a name key, which is the unique ID that we got from here. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, and we can move on. Now we must convert our bitmap, which is right here, into a byte data. Just as we had right here, we must convert it back, because that's what Firebase accepts, and that's what we can upload to the database. So yeah, let's first of all change this rotated bitmap into a global variable, because we must access it inside here. And let me just check one thing. Okay, let's say byte array output stream BAOS equals to new byte array output stream. And now we are going to compress it into this BAOS, and then just change that into a byte array. So you'll see it in a second. So compress bitmap dot compress, compress with a capital C, compress format. We are going to upload it in JPEG because it is much lighter than PNG. And then we are going to set the quality of 20, and for me 20 gets a good balance between size and quality, so I'm going to go with that. And we are going to pass it inside BAOS, not BOS. BAOS, okay. Now we are going to create a byte variable called data to upload, and say that BAOS to array is equal to that. So BAOS to byte array is going to be passed inside that. Data to upload. Oh, byte with a small b. Sorry about that. And now we are going to create an upload task, which will take care of uploading everything to the database. So upload task is upload task. Let's call it that, and say file path, specifying where this file will be uploaded to, dot put bytes data to upload. Okay, and now we'll get to a cool part, which is to implement listeners to know if the upload was successful, if it is completed, and to get primarily the URL where the image is stored. So the image is stored in a public URL, so anyone can access it, and that's the URL that we want. So first of all, let's implement a onFailure listener, because it is much simpler, easier to do. Say add on failure listener. Let me check one thing. On failure listener. Okay, new on failure listener. And whenever this fails, I'm going to kill this activity, so that the user has to retake the picture and try to upload it again. So that's the easiest way to do it. Let's just say finish and return. Okay, I'm going to move it down a bit. And now let's do the most complicated thing, which is the upload task dot add on success listener, or in this case, yeah, on success listener. New on success listener, and it will create it for you, as easy as that. And now we are going to get the download, the URL that's associated with the image, and we do that simply by saying URI image, how you're going to call it, say image URL, okay, that is good enough, and we say task snapshot dot get download URL. So as you can see, even this is quite similar to the listeners that we normally implement with a database. So yeah, it's quite simple and pretty straightforward. So yeah, now we can get the timestamp, the current timestamp and the timestamp end. So as I said in the beginning, the timestamp is our current timestamp, and the timestamp end is the timestamp in 24 hours. So let's first say long current timestamp equals to system dot current time in millis, and that's it. We don't need anything else. And now for the timestamp end, so end timestamp, let's call it that, we are going to add the system. Actually, let's use this variable because there's no reason not to. The times we are going to add 24 hours in milliseconds. Sorry, so let's say that's it is 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds times 1000 to make it milliseconds, okay? And now we are going to create an hash map, just as I believe we did in the beginning when we create an account, which will store everything at the same time to a new child, which in this case will be this user story db dot child key. Okay, and you'll see it in a second. So let's say map string dot comma object. Let's import that. Create all. Click Alt Enter Enter, and call it map to upload. And say equals to new hash map. Okay, and now we can simply place the variables that we got from this inside this map. So let's simply say put image URL created as okay image URL, that will be image URL dot toString. Let's copy and paste this twice, and let's say timestamp end. Okay, and we simply pass the current timestamp to timestamp, and let's call it timestamp bag for beginning, just to make a clear distinction between the two. Okay, so timestamp, current timestamp, and now end timestamp, and we aren't going to convert it to string or what else, because it is best for us to keep it as a long variable, which will make our lives a lot easier in the future. So now let's just upload this map to this user story db.child and we must also add the child key, which has this key is the unique ID for this post, and set the value to map to upload. Okay, that's it. And after that we simply finish the activity and return. And as you can see, there's an underlining between in user story DB and key, and that's because they must be final. So final here and final here, and that's because we are accessing them within a listener in this case. So yeah, I believe that everything is working, should be working just fine. So let's run the app and see if everything checks out. Okay, so the app finished loading successfully, and so let's go inside our storage right here. And if this doesn't show up to you, and instead what appeared to me in the beginning of the lesson does to you, then simply click the buttons and the big blue button, and say got it. It is just a warning about the rules and whatnot, so don't worry about it. It isn't anything important, just say got it and move on forward. Otherwise the saving process won't work unless this page right here, as it is appearing to me, is showing to you. So let me just hit screen record in my phone and let's try it out. So as you can see, it is still working. It works better like this. So let's just take a picture, and let me, before saving it, let me go just right here and refreshing it so that you can see it working in real time. You can't do it in the storage because it doesn't work in real time, but the database does, and so you can do it right here. So let's simply save to stories, and a child is created here with a unique ID, and the image URL is here, and the timestamp beginning and end is right here. So now let's go inside storage and refresh the page so that we can see what was created. Okay, going to captures, that's good. And here we are, the image with a unique ID that's equal to this one right here. So if you click it, you can actually see the image that was taken, and we get the file location right here. But we can also get it from the image URL. So actually let's do it. Let's copy this link and see where does it take us. So let's enter, and here we go. We see the image as was taken by us. It is a bit compressed, but not that much. So yeah, everything is working just fine. In the next lesson, we'll probably be doing the find users and the social aspect of the app. So we'll start working on that so that later on we can actually make stories work, and we can send specific users images. So, but that's all for today. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, that's all. Ciao.